Hello there everyone, welcome to Edupedia World 9th grade Computer Applications video lecture series. I'm Upeka Vendibona, and from this episode we are going to start the 5th section, Database Packages. Before moving on, let's clarify what is database. This is a persistent, organized store of a data. Why persistent? Because the data and structures are maintained even when the applications that use the data are no longer running. So database have to be organized, structured, so that information can be found and manipulated quickly and easily. An address book and the telephone directory are examples of paper-based manual databases. Paper databases have a fixed structure. For example, a paper telephone directory is organized by the name of the person of the business. As it is not organized by telephone number, it would take an individual a very long time to manually search through a specific number. And that's why most people tend to use computerized databases. A computerized database is a collection of related data stored in one or more computerized files in a manner that can be accessed by users or computer programs. A supermarket accounting system is an perfect example. As items are sold, the inventory database is getting updated and the inventory information is made available to the sales staff. So these electronic databases have several advantages over manual paper-based databases. So this includes the ability for the data to be accessed by more than one person at the same time. And the next one is the ability to interrogate or query the data and view the resulting answers. And also it has the ability for changes to the data to be made quickly available to all the end users. And finally, the output of data can be obtained in a range of different formats to suit users' needs, either for viewing on screen or as printouts. For example, graphs, reports, forms, etc. The computers have the ability to store large amounts of data and to process it speedily. Organizations of all sizes use databases to store, sort, interrogate, and manage their data. So if we take a hospital databases maintain details of patients, doctors, and treatments. And when we take businesses, the business use databases to keep track of sales, stock and staff and etc. and to analyze their own performance too. So these computerized systems, it may be a mere conversion of paper-based system into an electronic form. We call them as flat file systems. So let's capture what are the advantages of flat file system. The first advantage is all records are stored in one place, and thereby it is very easy to understand and simple sorting and filtering can be carried out as we just did in the spreadsheets. For all the advantages of flat file systems, there are disadvantages too. Let's try to capture some of them. And finally, you may realize it has disadvantages more than advantages. Number 1. Potential duplication. With perhaps thousands of records in a file, it can be a very tedious process to spot duplicate records, especially if more than one person is maintaining the table. Number 2. Non-unique records. There might be records having identical IDs, and there is nothing in a flat file system to stop this. Number 3. Harder to update. Suppose you need to store additional data about the already captured data. That would not be an easy task. Number 4. Inherently inefficient. So for that, let's take email address. If there are tens of thousands of records, there may be many people having no email addresses. But every record in a flat file database has to have the same field whether they are used or not. Number 5. Harder to change data format. Suppose you are capturing telephone numbers and it has a specific data format. There is a slight probability it could be changed. So whenever a change happened, how could you adapt into this change? It would be very difficult. Number 6. Poor at complex queries. Flat files are excellent for simple filtering. Remember, using spreadsheet, we learned about filtering and used in Microsoft Excel. So that's a simple task. For anything a bit more complicated, a flat file becomes very difficult to use. Number 7. Almost no security. You can protect a flat file database using a password for opening it, but once it is opened, that person can usually see all the fields. Absolutely no access controlling. This is often not a good thing because there might be a confidential field that only specific people have the authority to see. So for all these reasons, there is a solution called Relational Databases. By using relational databases, these limitations could easily overcome. So what is a relational database? It is another type of a database that holds its data over a number of tables. Records within the tables are linked to records held in other tables. So that's why we called it relational, related. Therefore, relational databases. Splitting data into a number of related tables brings many advantages over a flat file database. Let's look at them. Number 1. Data is only stored once. Therefore, no multiple record changes needed and it is simple to delete or modify details. All the records in other tables having a link to that entry, the changed entry, will show the change. So it is more efficient storage mechanism. Number 2. Complex queries can be carried out. A language called SQL, structured query language, has been developed to allow programmers to insert, update, delete, create, drop table records. We will come into that later in this section, but what you need to know is far more complicated queries can be written that can extract data from many tables at once. Number 3. Better security. By splitting data into tables, certain tables can be made confidential. So when a person logs on with their username and password, the system can then limit access only to those tables or records they are authorized to view. For example, a receptionist would be able to view employee location and contact details, but not their salary amount. Number 4. It caters for future requirements. By having data held in separate tables, it is simple to add new records and new details that are not yet needed but maybe in the future. So now we know that databases are organized so that the data in them can be accessed and processed as efficiently as possible, and the data in a database is collected for some specific purpose, and a database is usually set up in a response to a need. Therefore, let's try to define a basic definition for database management systems. Modern databases are controlled by database management systems. In shortened form, we call them as DBMS. This software acts as an intermediary between the data and the application that the organization needed. So this can be ranged from a simple program that creates and maintains a comma-delimited flat file database through to a sophisticated relational database management systems that can be used to create and manage a huge variety of database structures. Actually, it is undesirable for applications to be data dependent. The traditional approach to storing data in a company was for everyone to store their own data separately. Look at this illustration. A company might have a sales department dealing with customers and a marketing department that do promotions for the same customers on the product lines they have interested in. So these departments would have kept their own data files with slightly different versions of the data rather than sharing one file of data. So this is the traditional approach. The problem with this approach is that there are two copies of the same customer details. So whenever a customer mentioned a change in his address with a salesperson, the address is updated in only one place. The sales department has the up-to-date details, but the rest of the company doesn't. So this is called as data inconsistency. And this is the main problem with duplicating data in more than one place. So this is easily solved by everyone sharing a one database like in this illustration. This problem of data duplication leads to wasted storage space as well as the wasted time on entering the same information in different places. The ideal situation is to enable applications to share an integrated database containing all the data needed by the applications. So this will eliminate the data redundancy, which means the unnecessary duplication of data. Now let's look at some popular database management systems. Among these, MySQL and PostgreSQL are free and open source softwares. You can freely download the software from their official websites. But Microsoft Access and Oracle Database are proprietary databases. In order to use, you need to buy them. And this Microsoft Access comes along with the Microsoft Office package. So all of these database management systems provide following features. Security, because data must be kept safe from malicious access. Creation and maintenance. It involves using software to define and build the structures to hold the data as well as to make changes to the data in the database. For example, adding new data items, deleting existing data items, updating existing data items. Integrity. It means keeping data in such a way that it is consistent, correct, reliable and not redundant. Querying. Querying also involves using software to search the database for information of interest to the user. Maintaining a database logger. Many database management systems record details of who accessed the database and when. Most databases also record what was changed by that user. So this permits the rollback, that means undoing, of incorrect actions on the database. Data validation. Data validation ensures the correctness of the data when data is inputted or changed by a user. And then the central control. A database management system can provide a database administrator, we call as DBA, with a central control of the database. With such control, a database administrator can assign access rights and privileges to users and ensure that standards are followed in the representation of the data. The last one, performance and efficiency. Knowing the overall requirement of the organization, a database administrator can use the database management system to structure the database system so that it provides a service that is best for the business. Some database management systems provide tools for the DBA to monitor statistics related to database performance and use. If there are certain activities carried out frequently by end users, the database management system can adjust to improve the speed of those interactions. So this is particularly important in very large databases. So that's all for this episode. From the next lecture, we are going to look at some technical stuff. Concepts in relational database management systems. So thank you for listening. See you in the next episode. This video brought to you by edupediaworld.com. Watch more from our website.